The Democratic Republic of the Congo, or DRC, is a vast country located right in the heart of Africa. It is a place of incredible natural wealth, with lush rainforests, powerful rivers, and soil rich with valuable minerals that power our modern world. But for the last 30 years, this beautiful land has been the setting for one of the world's longest and deadliest conflicts. The roots of this war are deep and complicated, stretching back to a terrible event in a neighboring country. In 1994, the Rwandan genocide saw hundreds of thousands of people killed. When that violence ended, many people, including some who committed the killings, fled across the border into the eastern part of the DRC, bringing the conflict with them and planting the seeds for decades of suffering. The war that followed was not a simple fight between two countries. It became a tangled web of different armed groups, each with its own goals. On one side was the official government of the DRC, struggling to control its vast territory. On the other side was its neighbor, Rwanda, which said it needed to enter the DRC to protect itself from the groups that had fled there after the genocide. And caught in the middle were many local rebel groups. One of the most powerful of these groups is called M23. They claim to be fighting to protect the rights of their people, but many believe they have been secretly supported by Rwanda, a charge Rwanda has long denied, despite mounting evidence. This complex mix of players kept the conflict burning for a generation. Over the years, the fighting would sometimes quiet down, only to erupt again with renewed force. Each new wave of violence brought more instability to the region. The conflict was not just about old grievances or ethnic tensions, it also became about control. The eastern DRC is incredibly rich in minerals like coltan, which is used to make our cell phones and laptops. Various armed groups, including the M23 rebels, fought fiercely to control the mines that produced these valuable resources. They used the money from selling these minerals to buy more weapons and continue their fight. This cycle of violence, fueled by the world's demand for technology, created a situation where peace seemed impossible and the suffering of ordinary people had no end in sight. The international community tried many times to stop the fighting. Peacekeeping soldiers from the United Nations were sent to the DRC, and regional forces from other African nations also deployed to protect civilians. But the country is enormous, and the conflict was deeply entrenched, making their jobs incredibly difficult. The M23 rebels in particular grew stronger in recent years, capturing major cities like Goma and Bukavu in 2024. Their advances created a major crisis, pushing the region to the brink of a full-scale regional war. It became clear that a new approach was needed, one that could finally address the core issues between the DRC and Rwanda and break the devastating cycle of violence once and for all. The true victims of this long and brutal conflict have always been the ordinary people of the eastern DRC. For 30 years, families have lived under the constant shadow of violence, never knowing when their lives might be turned upside down. The numbers are staggering and almost impossible to fully comprehend. Since the war began in 1996, it is estimated that over 6 million people have lost their lives. This makes it one of the deadliest conflicts anywhere in the world since World War II. These were not just soldiers. They were mothers, fathers, and children who died from the fighting or from the disease and starvation that followed in its wake. Their loss has left a deep and lasting scar on the heart of the nation. Beyond the immense loss of life, the war has created one of the largest refugee crises on the planet. Imagine having to flee your home with only the clothes on your back, leaving everything you have ever known behind. This has been the reality for millions. As of early 2025, more than 7 million people within the DRC were displaced, forced from their villages by advancing armies and rebel groups. They sought shelter in crowded camps, in churches, or with families in safer towns, but safety was never guaranteed. The fighting often followed them, turning their places of refuge into new front lines. This constant displacement has robbed an entire generation of their homes, their education, and their futures. The suffering did not stop with displacement. The war has been marked by horrific acts of violence against civilians. Reports from human rights organizations have documented widespread abuses committed by all sides of the conflict. Villages were burned to the ground, and innocent people were targeted in indiscriminate attacks. Women and girls in particular have endured unimaginable cruelty. with sexual violence used systematically as a weapon of war to terrorize and control communities. These are not just statistics, they are individual stories of profound trauma and pain. Stories of people whose lives have been shattered by a war they did not ask for and could not escape. The psychological wounds are just as deep as the physical ones. Living in this environment of constant fear and uncertainty has destroyed the fabric of society. Farmers have been unable to plant their crops, afraid to go to their fields. This has led to widespread food shortages and malnutrition, especially among children. Hospitals and schools have been ransacked or destroyed, leaving communities without access to basic healthcare or education. The economy of the region has collapsed, replaced by a war economy where the only way to survive is often to join an armed group. For 30 years, the people of the Eastern DRC have been denied the most basic human rights, the right to safety, the right to dignity, and the right to hope for a better tomorrow. After years of failed ceasefires and escalating violence, a significant breakthrough finally came in the summer of 2025. On June 27th, a historic peace agreement was signed between the leaders of the Democratic Republic of the Congo and Rwanda. The signing ceremony took place far from the battlefields of Africa at the US State Department in Washington, D.C. This location signaled a new level of international involvement and pressure. The United States, under the administration of President Donald Trump, played a key role in bringing the two sides together for intense negotiations. After months of fighting that saw the M23 rebels capture major cities, the international community, including the US and European nations, had increased pressure on Rwanda with sanctions and aid restrictions, pushing for a diplomatic solution. The agreement signed in June 2025 laid out a hopeful roadmap for peace. At its core, both the DRC and Rwanda formally agreed to stop supporting all non-state armed groups in the region. This was a crucial step, as Rwanda's alleged backing of the M23 rebels was a major driver of the conflict. The deal also included plans to help the millions of refugees and displaced people finally return to their homes safely. To ensure these promises were kept, the two countries agreed to set up a joint security team to monitor the volatile border region. This cooperative approach was designed to build trust between two nations that had been enemies for decades. Beyond the security arrangements, the peace deal also included a significant economic component. The agreement aimed to open up the region to more foreign trade and investment, especially in the critical minerals sector. The United States made it clear that it had a strong interest in this part of the deal, with President Trump stating that the US would gain a lot of mineral rights from the DRC. The idea was that by formalizing the trade in minerals like coltan and gold, it would remove the financial incentive for rebel groups to keep fighting. The hope is that economic cooperation could replace military competition, creating shared prosperity that would benefit everyone and make peace more sustainable in the long run. The signing of the agreement was met with a wave of cautious optimism around the world. For the first time in a generation, there was a real, tangible plan to end the fighting. President Trump hailed the deal as the end of one of the worst wars anyone's ever seen. For the people in the Eastern DRC who have known nothing but conflict, it was a moment of profound hope. The promise of silencing the guns, of being able to return home, and of rebuilding their lives seemed closer than ever before. This agreement, brokered with the full weight of a global superpower, represented a potential turning point, a chance to finally close a dark chapter and begin writing a new one for the Congo. While the 2025 peace agreement is a monumental step forward, the path to the genuine and lasting peace in the DRC is filled with challenges. Many critics and human rights advocates have raised serious concerns about the deal. One major issue is that the M23 rebel group, the main fighting force on the ground, was not a direct signatory to the agreement between the DRC and Rwanda. While separate talks are reportedly happening, there is no clear public plan for their disarmament or their withdrawal from the vast territories they control. For the people living under M23 occupation, peace will not feel real until the soldiers leave their towns and they can feel safe in their own homes again. Another significant worry is the focus on minerals. Some observers fear that the peace deal is too transactional, reducing a complex human tragedy to a business arrangement over natural resources. They argue that a durable peace cannot be built on economic interests alone. For peace to truly take hold, it must include justice. For 30 years, Horrific crimes have been committed, and the victims are demanding accountability. They want to see those responsible for war crimes and atrocities face trial. The current agreement is quiet on the issue of justice and reparations for victims, leaving many to wonder if true reconciliation is possible without it. Lasting peace requires both security and fairness. The journey of rebuilding will be long and incredibly difficult. Decades of war have destroyed infrastructure, shattered communities, and eroded any trust between different groups of people. Disarming tens of thousands of fighters and helping them return to civilian life is a massive undertaking. Rebuilding schools, clinics, and roads will require enormous investment and international support. But most importantly, healing the deep wounds of trauma and hatred will take generations. It will require programs that promote forgiveness and reconciliation at the local level, helping neighbors who were once enemies learn to live together again in peace. This is a slow and delicate process that cannot be rushed. Despite these immense challenges, the 2025 peace agreement provides the most powerful thing of all: hope. For the millions of people in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, peace is not an abstract concept. It is the chance for a normal life. It is the freedom to send their children to school without fear. It is the ability to plant a field and harvest its crops. It is the right to dream of a future that is not defined by violence and loss. The road ahead is uncertain, and the work is far from over. But for the first time in a very long time, the people of the DRC can look toward a horizon where the guns are silent, and a brighter, more peaceful future for their beautiful country is finally within reach.